It started quietly, the way most endings do. Not with shouting, not with slamming doors, but with silence. Emily used to fall asleep in my arms. She'd hum songs under her breath, sometimes off-key, but I loved it anyway. Our nights used to feel warm, even sacred. Now, there was only the sound of the ceiling fan and her back turned toward me. The first time she said no, I thought she was tired. The second time, I believed her headache. By the fifth, I stopped asking. There's only so many times you can reach out before your hand starts to feel like a burden. We'd been married 7 years. Not long enough to forget love, but long enough for comfort to turn into distance. I'd lie awake beside her, staring at the faint light leaking through the curtains, wondering if I'd done something wrong. Maybe I'd stopped being attractive. Maybe I'd stopped being interesting. She'd get up early, make coffee, scroll through her phone like she was waiting for someone to message her. When I walked into the kitchen, she'd mutter a flat "morning" without looking up. That one word felt colder than any argument. I tried to fix things the usual way. Surprises, weekend plans, compliments that sounded forced even to my own ears. But nothing worked. It was like standing outside my own house, knocking, knowing nobody was coming to open the door. One night, I reached out and brushed my fingers against her arm. She froze. Just that small flinch, like my touch was unwelcome, was enough to crush something inside me. I turned away, pretending I hadn't noticed, but my chest ached like I'd swallowed glass. After that, I stopped trying. It wasn't revenge at first. It was exhaustion, emotional fatigue. I began waking up earlier than her. I'd leave for work without saying goodbye. No more breakfast together, no more morning small talk. When she walked into the kitchen, the coffee pot would be empty. My mug, washed and dried, already back in the cabinet. It wasn't a plan, it just happened. I was mirroring what she'd done to me, but in reverse. She rejected me every night, so I started avoiding her every morning. First, she didn't seem to care. She'd still stay up late, watching TV in the living room while I went to bed alone. But a week later, I noticed the change. She started waking up earlier too. The first few mornings, she looked surprised to find the house quiet, the car already gone. Then her expression shifted from confusion to something closer to guilt. One Sunday morning, I stayed home. I was sitting at the table, reading emails on my phone when she walked in. "Oh," she said, like she'd walked into the wrong room. "You didn't go for your run?" "No," I said without looking up. "Didn't feel like it." She poured herself coffee and sat across from me. The silence was unbearable. She stared into her cup like it had answers at the bottom. "I feel like we don't talk anymore," she said. I looked up, meeting her eyes for the first time in days. "We don't do a lot of things anymore." Her lips parted, but no words came out. I could see her trying to find the right excuse, stress, work, hormones, anything, but she didn't say it. She just looked small, fragile almost. It wasn't anger that I felt. It was grief. The kind that sits quietly in your chest and never leaves. That day, I realized something. I wasn't punishing her anymore. I was mourning us. For the next week, I kept my routine. Early mornings, empty conversations, polite smiles. But I watched her closely. The way she lingered near the door when I was leaving. The way her goodnight started to sound like an apology. One evening, she came into the bedroom while I was changing. "Are you mad at me?" she asked. "No," I said. "You act like you are. I just stopped asking for what you didn't want to give." She blinked, like she didn't expect that kind of honesty. Her eyes glistened, but she turned away before I could see tears fall. That night, for the first time in months, she touched my hand. Just lightly, a small gesture, but it felt like an echo of what we used to be. I didn't pull away, but I didn't hold her either. By then, I'd learned something dangerous. Once you get used to the cold, warmth starts to feel foreign. The next few days felt strange. Not better, just different. Emily tried small things. She'd ask if I wanted coffee, or if I'd eaten lunch. Her voice carried a careful tone, like someone stepping on cracked ice. I answered politely, but my words were hollow. Something between us had already shifted, not broken, just detached. One night, she came to bed early, for the first time in a long time. I could sense her trying to bridge the gap, lying closer than usual. Her shoulder brushed mine, tentative, nervous. "Can we talk?" she whispered. "Sure," I said, keeping my gaze on the ceiling. "I know I've been distant. I didn't realize how far things had gone." Her voice trembled, like she was holding back tears. I wanted to say something comforting, but nothing came. I wasn't angry anymore. That's what scared me most. The anger had burned out, leaving only emptiness. "I thought I was just tired," she said. "Work's been draining, and I felt disconnected. But I didn't mean to push you away." I finally looked at her. The woman lying next to me looked the same. Same face, same eyes, but she didn't feel familiar anymore. "It's not just about being tired, Emily," I said softly. "You made me feel unwanted. That doesn't go away overnight." Her lips trembled. "I know. I'm sorry. Sorry." The most overused, underfelt word in any marriage. I turned off the lamp and rolled to my side. She stayed quiet after that, but I could feel her awake beside me, breathing unevenly. Days turned into weeks. She started making breakfast again, leaving small notes in my lunchbox. "Have a good day. Drive safe." Little gestures that used to mean everything now felt like afterthoughts. She was trying, but I couldn't unfeel the rejection. It had carved something deep inside me. One Friday evening, my coworker, Jason, invited me to grab a drink. I said yes, something I hadn't done in months. I didn't tell Emily, not out of spite, but out of habit. She never used to notice, anyway. We went to a quiet bar near the office. The kind where people talked softly and the lights stayed low. That's where I met Claire. She was sitting 2 stools away, reading something on her phone, a half-finished glass of wine beside her. Jason knew her, introduced us briefly before leaving early. Claire and I ended up talking for an hour. She had that kind of presence that felt easy, like breathing fresh air after being indoors too long. She laughed easily, asked about my work, told me she was divorced. There was no flirting, no tension, just 2 people talking like they'd known each other for years. When I drove home that night, I realized I hadn't thought about Emily once during the entire conversation. That realization hit harder than I expected. Emily was waiting when I got home. "You're late," she said. Not accusing, just observant. "I was with Jason," I replied. She nodded slowly. "You didn't answer my text." "I didn't see it." That was true. I hadn't checked my phone once. She looked at me for a long time. "You've changed." I wanted to say, "So have you," but I didn't. Over the next few weeks, Emily became more attentive. She wanted to go out, cook together, talk at night. But it all felt performative, like she was fighting to save something she hadn't valued until it started slipping away. One night, she reached for my hand again. "I miss you," she said. I hesitated. "Do you miss me? Or do you miss how I used to chase you?" Her face fell. She didn't answer. She didn't have to. The truth was, I missed her too. But not the version standing in front of me. I missed the woman who used to look at me like I was her world, not her obligation. It's strange how emotional neglect doesn't make noise when it happens. It just quietly erases affection, one small rejection at a time. You wake up one day and realize you're strangers sharing a bed. By the time Emily began reaching out, I'd already begun letting go. Not because I wanted someone else, but because I'd finally learned to want myself again. One Saturday morning, she came into the kitchen while I was packing for a short work trip. "When did you stop loving me?" she asked quietly. I looked at her, really looked at her. The sadness, the confusion, the regret. "I didn't stop," I said. "I just stopped waiting to be loved back." Her eyes filled with tears, but she nodded. No drama, no screaming, just acceptance. Maybe she knew she'd lost me long before I realized it myself. That trip turned into more than a business break. It was clarity, a pause that stretched long enough for me to see what I'd been avoiding. Sometimes love doesn't die loudly. It just fades until silence feels normal. When I returned home, Emily had redecorated the bedroom, changed the sheets, rearranged the photos. But it all felt forced, like repainting cracked walls without fixing the foundation. I stayed for a few more months, trying to rediscover something that no longer existed. Eventually, we agreed to take time apart. There were no villains, no victims. Just two people who forgot how to reach each other. Even now, when I see her name light up on my phone, I feel something. Not bitterness, not love, just a quiet ache for what used to be. She rejected me every night, and I avoided her every morning. But the truth I learned in between was this. Sometimes distance isn't revenge, it's recovery.